I was smiling so wide my cheeks hurt as I watched my grandson Ethan walk across that stage, his cap slightly crooked, just like it always was when he was a boy. It should have been one of the happiest days of my life, and it was until a stranger sat down beside me, pressed a folded note into my hand, and whispered, "Read it later." I didn't wait. "Do not go home with your daughter. You are in danger." My smile didn't just fade. It disappeared completely. If you've ever trusted family more than your instincts, I want you to stay with me. Tell me, where are you watching from and what time is it there? And if this moment already makes your stomach twist a little, go ahead and like and subscribe. Something tells me this story is going to hit closer to home than we expect. I folded the note slowly, carefully, as if the paper itself might explode in my hands if I moved too quickly. My fingers trembled, but I forced them still. Around me, applause thundered through the auditorium as the next name was called, another proud family rising to their feet. Just minutes ago, I had been one of them, smiling, clapping, dabbing at tears. Now I felt like I was sitting inside someone else's life. "Mom, did you get a good picture?" Rachel's voice came from behind me, bright and cheerful in that practiced way she had when she wanted everything to appear perfect. I slipped the note into the sleeve of my blouse before turning. "I did," I said, hoping my voice didn't betray me. She leaned over my shoulder, already reaching for my phone. "Let me see." I hesitated just for a fraction of a second, but Rachel noticed everything. She always had. "Oh, come on," she laughed lightly. "You know you never hold it steady." I handed it over. My instincts told me not to resist. Not yet. Rachel scrolled through the photos, quickly deleting 2 before I could even protest. "These are blurry," she said. "I'll send you mine later." Of course she would. She always preferred control, even in small things. Daniel appeared beside her, tall and composed, wearing that polite smile he reserved for public situations. "Louise," he said warmly, placing a hand on my shoulder. "You must be so proud." I answered, searching his face for anything that might confirm or deny what I had just read. But Daniel's expression was smooth. Too smooth. Ethan walked toward us, then his gown-swaying diploma case tucked under his arm. My heart swelled again, pushing past the fear like it didn't belong there. "Grandma," he said, pulling me into a quick hug. I held on a second longer than usual. "You did it," I whispered. "I'm so proud of you." "Thanks," he said, but when he pulled back, his eyes flickered, not quite meeting mine. Just for a second, he glanced at Rachel. It was subtle, but I saw it, and something inside me tightened. "Let's get some photos outside," Rachel announced, already ushering us toward the aisle. "The light is perfect right now." She took my elbow, guiding me forward. Not roughly, not even noticeably to anyone else, but firmly, as if I might wander off. We stepped into the bright afternoon sun, the campus lawn buzzing with families, laughter balloons, and cameras flashing. It should have felt warm, safe. Instead, I felt exposed. Rachel positioned us for photos, adjusting my stance, smoothing my blouse, even fixing my hair. "Stand here," she said. "No." "A little closer to Ethan." Daniel took over the camera. "Smile," he called. I did, because I didn't know what else to do. But my smile felt wrong now, stretched too thin over something sharp and invisible. "Perfect," Daniel said. "One more." As he snapped another photo, I scanned the crowd, looking for her. The woman who had handed me the note. At first I saw nothing but strangers. Then just beyond a group of parents, I caught a glimpse of a navy blouse, a familiar posture. Her. She was standing still, watching. Not smiling. Not waving. Just observing. Our eyes met, and in that brief moment she gave the smallest shake of her head. No, don't. A chill ran through me even under the warm sun. Mom, you okay? Rachel asked suddenly, her grip tightening on my arm. I turned back to her quickly. Yes, of course, I said. Just a little overwhelmed. Well, that's why we're heading out soon, she said smoothly. You've had a long day. Heading out, I repeated, keeping my tone light. Yes, she said, as if it had already been decided. We'll skip the big dinner crowd. I already packed a bag for you. You can stay at our place tonight, rest up. My heart skipped. You packed a bag? I asked. Rachel smiled. Of course. I know how tired you get after events like this. I stared at her. I hadn't told her I was tired. I hadn't agreed to stay over. In fact, I had planned to go home, to sit in my own chair, to look through old photos of Ethan growing up. Simple things. Mine. That's very thoughtful, I said carefully, but I think I'd rather go home tonight. Rachel's smile didn't disappear, but it changed. Just slightly. Tighter. Well, she said, glancing at Daniel, let's see how you feel after lunch. Daniel nodded. No pressure, he added. We just want what's best for you. Those words. They sounded kind, but suddenly they felt rehearsed. We made our way to a nearby restaurant, one of those upscale places Rachel liked with polished tables and soft music playing in the background. A table had already been reserved. Of course it had. We sat down and Rachel immediately ordered for me before I could even open the menu. She'll have the grilled salmon, she told the waiter. Light on the sauce. I blinked. Actually, it's your favorite, she said quickly, cutting me off with a smile. I closed my mouth. Was it? I couldn't remember the last time I had ordered it. As the waiter walked away, I reached for my purse only to realize it wasn't there. Oh, I said, I think I left my bag in the car. Rachel didn't even hesitate. I have it, she said, tapping her own oversized handbag. Don't worry about it. My chest tightened. You have my bag? I asked. I told you, she said lightly. I'm keeping track of everything today so you don't have to. Everything. The word echoed in my mind. Ethan sat across from me, quiet. He kept checking his phone, his leg bouncing slightly under the table. Nervous? I asked gently. He looked up, startled. What? Oh no. Just messages. Everyone's congratulating me. That's wonderful, I said. He nodded, but his smile didn't reach his eyes. Rachel leaned forward. We were actually talking about next steps, she said. You know, planning ahead, making sure everything is organized. For what I asked. For you, she said softly. Your living situation. Your care. I felt something drop inside me. My care. I repeated. Just practical things, Daniel added. Nothing to worry about. Rachel reached across the table and placed her hand over mine. Mom, we just want to make things easier for you. You've been forgetful lately. I stared at her hand, then at her face. I don't think I have, I said quietly. She tilted her head, her expression filled with gentle concern. You don't remember the bank statements, or the mix-up with your medication. My breath caught. Those things. They had happened, but not like that. Not the way she was describing them. I think I said slowly, there might be some confusion. Rachel squeezed my hand. That's exactly what I mean, she said. And just like that, I understood something terrifying. She wasn't just controlling the situation, she was rewriting it. I pulled my hand back gently. "Excuse me," I said. "I need to use the restroom." Rachel started to rise. "I'll come with—" "No," I said, quickly standing. "I'm fine." For a moment she hesitated. Then she smiled again. "Of course you are." I walked away from the table, my heart pounding louder with every step. The note burned in my sleeve. "Do not go home with your daughter. You are in danger." For the first time, I wasn't questioning it. I was starting to believe it. I didn't go to the restroom. Instead, I slowed my steps just enough to make it look natural, then turned down the hallway that led back toward the main entrance of the restaurant. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. Every instinct I had, the quiet, sensible ones I'd relied on for decades, was screaming that something was wrong. Not imagined, not exaggerated. Wrong. I reached into my sleeve and pulled out the folded note again. The handwriting was steady, deliberate. No hesitation in the strokes. Whoever wrote it wasn't unsure. They were certain. And now, so was I. I glanced over my shoulder. No one had followed me. Not Rachel. Not Daniel. Good. I pushed through the glass doors and stepped outside into the late afternoon light. The air felt different out here, cooler, clearer, as if I could finally breathe. And then I saw her. She was standing across the street near a row of parked cars, the same navy blouse, the same still posture, watching me just as she had at the ceremony, waiting for me. For a moment I hesitated. Every warning I had ever given my students about strangers, about caution, about safety echoed in my mind, but something stronger overrode it. Trust your instincts. I crossed the street. She didn't move until I was only a few feet away. Then she gave a small nod like she had expected this exact moment. "You came," she said quietly. Her voice was calm, grounded. "I need to know what this means," I replied, holding up the note. "Who are you? Why would you say I'm in danger?" She looked past me briefly, scanning the area, then gestured toward a shaded bench nearby. "We shouldn't stand out in the open," she said. That could have sounded suspicious, but somehow it didn't. We sat down, a careful distance between us. "My name is Claire Bennett," she said. "And I'm very sorry to meet you like this, Mrs. Hayes." "Louise." I corrected automatically, though my voice felt tight. "Just Louise." She nodded. "Louise." I studied her face. Early 40s, maybe. No makeup beyond what was necessary. Tired eyes, but not weak ones. There was something steady about her. Something that didn't match manipulation. Still, I wasn't naive. "You haven't answered my question," I said. "Why did you give me that note?" She inhaled slowly, as if choosing her words carefully. "Because I recognized you," she said. "And because I heard something I wasn't supposed to hear." A chill ran through me. "Where?" I asked. "At the rehabilitation clinic," she said. "The one you stayed at after your fall 2 months ago." My breath caught. "Yes," I said, slowly. "I remember." She shook her head gently. "You remember parts of it, but not everything." A flicker of irritation rose in me. "I remember enough," I said firmly. "I believe you," she said quickly. "That's actually why I'm here." That stopped me. "What do you mean?" Claire leaned forward slightly, lowering her voice. "I worked at that clinic for almost a year. Physical therapy department. I saw your file when you were admitted. I worked with you twice." I searched my memory, but her face didn't come to mind. "I don't remember you," I admitted. "That's okay," she said. "You had a lot going on, and I wasn't assigned to you long term. So why me?" I asked. "Why now?" She glanced toward the restaurant again before answering. Because of your daughter. My stomach tightened. Rachel? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Claire nodded. She came to the clinic almost every day, she said. At first, that didn't seem unusual. Family involvement is normal. But after a while, things started to feel off. How I pressed. She asked a lot of questions, Claire said. Not about your recovery, not about your physical progress. Then about what? About your memory, she said. Your decision-making. Your awareness. She kept asking staff if you seemed confused, if you forgot things, if you ever contradicted yourself. My hands curled into fists in my lap. That doesn't make sense, I said. I wasn't confused. I know, Claire said softly. That's what bothered me. I swallowed hard. Go on. One evening, she continued. I was finishing up paperwork near the administrative office. Your daughter and, I assume your son-in-law, were inside with one of the supervisors. The door wasn't fully closed. My heart began to race again. I wasn't trying to listen, Claire added quickly, but I heard enough. What did you hear? I asked. Her expression tightened just slightly. Your son-in-law said, once the evaluation is documented, we can move forward with the paperwork. The words hit me like a physical blow. Paperwork, I echoed. Claire nodded. And your daughter said she won't fight it if they say she's not capable. She trusts doctors. I felt something inside me crack. No, I whispered. That doesn't sound like it gets worse, Claire said quietly. I closed my eyes for a second, bracing myself. Tell me. She asked if there was a way to make the report. Stronger, Claire continued. More definitive. My eyes snapped open. What does that mean? It means, Claire said carefully, she wanted it to clearly state that you were not mentally fit to manage your own affairs. Silence fell between us. Heavy. Crushing. That's not true, I said, finally. My voice barely above a whisper. I've never been diagnosed with anything like that. I know, Claire said again. And your chart didn't support that conclusion either. Then how? She was pushing for it, Claire said. Pressuring. Suggesting incidents that didn't match your behavior. I felt dizzy. All those times she said I forgot things. I murmured. The bank statements. The medication. Claire's eyes softened. Louise, I don't think those were accidents. I stared at her. You're saying I couldn't even finish the sentence. I'm saying, Claire replied gently, that someone was building a pattern. A narrative. A narrative. The word echoed in my mind, connecting everything. Rachel insisting I was tired. Rachel taking my purse. Rachel ordering my food. Rachel speaking for me. Piece by piece. Rewriting me. But why, I asked, my voice shaking now? What would she gain from that? Claire hesitated, and for the first time I saw uncertainty in her. I don't know everything, she admitted, but I do know this. People don't push for incompetency evaluations unless they want control. Control. The word landed like a verdict. And today I asked, why warn me today? Claire exhaled slowly. Because I saw something this morning. What I was at the ceremony because of my niece, she said. When I saw you with your family, I recognized you immediately, and then I saw your daughter talking to a man I recognized from the clinic. My pulse spiked. Who an administrative coordinator, she said. Not a doctor, but someone who handles documentation. And Claire met my eyes directly, and I heard her say, tonight would be best. Once she's with us, it'll be easier. A cold wave washed over me. "Tonight?" I repeated. She nodded. "That's why I wrote the note," she said. "I didn't have time to explain everything, and I didn't know if you'd believe me." I looked down at the paper still clutched in my hand, then back at her. "I didn't," I admitted. "At first." Claire gave a sad, understanding smile. Most people wouldn't. I took a slow breath, trying to steady myself. "What do I do?" I asked. It was the first time I had said those words out loud, and I hated how vulnerable they sounded. Claire didn't hesitate. "You do not go home with them," she said firmly. The certainty in her voice was unmistakable. "You stay somewhere neutral," she continued. "Somewhere they can't control the environment. And you contact someone you trust, someone outside your immediate family." A face came to mind immediately. William Carter, my husband's lawyer, someone who had known us for decades, someone Rachel couldn't manipulate. "I think I know who to call," I said. Claire nodded. "Good." I stood slowly, my legs unsteady but determined. Inside that restaurant, my daughter was waiting, smiling, planning, and for the first time in my life, I was afraid of her. But I wasn't going to walk back in blindly, not anymore. I stood there for a moment longer after Claire finished speaking, letting the weight of her words settle into something solid inside me. Fear was still there, sharp and alive, but it was no longer paralyzing. It was clarifying. "Thank you," I said quietly. Claire nodded, but her expression didn't soften. "Be careful how you go back in," she warned. "If they're already moving things forward tonight, they may be watching for any sign you've changed your mind." I understood exactly what she meant. I couldn't walk back in as the woman who had just learned the truth. I had to go back in as the woman they thought they were controlling. "I can do that," I said. She studied me for a second, then gave a small approving nod. "Good. And Louise, don't confront them yet. Not until you have someone on your side who knows the law." "I won't," I promised, but even as I said it, something inside me stirred, not anger, not yet, but something deeper, a quiet breaking point. I turned and crossed the street again, each step measured, deliberate. By the time I reached the restaurant doors, I had smoothed my expression into something neutral, calm, maybe even a little tired. Exactly what Rachel expected. When I stepped back inside, the noise of the dining room wrapped around me again, clinking glasses low, conversations, the hum of normal life continuing, as if mine hadn't just shifted completely. Rachel looked up immediately. "There you are," she said, her tone light, but edged with something sharper beneath. "I was starting to wonder if you needed help." I smiled faintly. "Just took longer than I thought." She watched me as I sat down, her eyes scanning my face, searching for cracks. "I gave her none." Daniel leaned back slightly in his chair, observing in that quiet way of his. "Everything okay?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "I think I just needed a moment." Rachel reached across the table again, her fingers brushing mine. "That's what I was saying," she replied gently. "It's been a big day for you." There it was again, the soft rewriting, the careful shaping of reality. I nodded slowly as if I agreed. "It has." Ethan shifted in his seat, finally speaking. "Grandma, you want some water?" I looked at him, really looked this time. There was something unsettled in his expression. Not guilt exactly, but discomfort. "Yes, thank you," I said. He poured it quickly, almost too quickly, as if he needed something to do with his hands. I took a sip, buying myself a few seconds to think. Play along, gather information, get out safely. Rachel resumed the conversation as if nothing had happened. "So like I was saying, we've been thinking it might be time to make a few adjustments," she said. "Just to make things easier for you." "What kind of adjustments?" I asked, keeping my tone curious, not defensive. "Well," she began, glancing at Daniel, "the house is a lot to manage on your own." I nodded slowly. "It can be sometimes. And after your fall," Daniel added, "we just don't want to take any risks." Risks. The word felt loaded now. "I understand that," I said. "It was a scare." Rachel leaned forward slightly. "Exactly. And we've been looking into some options. Temporary at first, maybe staying with us for a while, or even exploring assisted living communities just to see what feels right." I forced myself not to react. Assisted living. They were moving faster than I thought. "That's a big step," I said carefully. "Not necessarily," Rachel replied quickly. "It doesn't have to be permanent. Just until we're sure everything is stable." Stable. Another word designed to make control sound like care. "And what about my house?" I asked. Rachel's smile didn't falter, but I saw it just for a second, the flicker of calculation. "We could look into renting it out," she said. "Or selling, depending on what makes the most sense." Selling. My home. The place where I had lived with Robert for over 40 years. The place where Rachel herself had grown up. "And you've already looked into that?" I asked. Daniel answered this time. "Just exploring options," he said. "Nothing decided," but his tone told me otherwise. Things had been decided. I set my glass down carefully. "I appreciate the concern," I said, choosing each word with precision. "But I'd like to think about all of this before making any decisions." Rachel nodded immediately. Too quickly. "Of course," she said. "That's why it would be good for you to stay with us tonight. We can talk it through properly." There it was again. Tonight. Claire's warning echoed in my mind. Once she's with us, it'll be easier. I let a small pause hang in the air, then sighed softly. "You might be right," I said. Rachel's eyes brightened just a little. Hooked. But I continued. "I actually promised someone I'd check in with them after the ceremony." Rachel's expression tightened slightly. "Who?" "An old friend from church," I said smoothly. She wasn't able to attend, but she wanted to hear how it went. It wasn't entirely a lie. I did have friends from church. I just hadn't promised anything. "Oh," Rachel said, clearly recalculating. "Well, you can call her from our house." "I'd rather stop by," I said gently. "It's been a while since we've seen each other." Daniel leaned forward slightly. "Louise," he said, his voice still calm but more deliberate. "Now it's been a long day." "Are you sure that's the best idea?" I met his gaze. For the first time, I didn't look away. "I think it is," I said. Something passed between us in that moment. A shift. He saw it. Not the full truth, but enough to know something had changed. Rachel tried again, her tone softer, more persuasive. "Mom, we just want to make sure you're safe tonight." I almost laughed. "Safe!" "I understand that," I said, "and I appreciate it. But I'll feel better if I stick to my original plan for now." Silence settled over the table. Ethan looked between us confused. Daniel leaned back again, his expression closing off. Rachel forced a smile. "Well, she said we don't want to push you." But her eyes told a different story. Not yet. Not here. But this wasn't over. The food arrived then, breaking the tension. Plates were set down, polite smiles exchanged with the waiter, small talk filling the gaps. But nothing felt normal anymore. Every word, every glance, every gesture carried weight. I took a bite of the salmon. It wasn't my favorite. I didn't even like it that much. And suddenly that detail felt important because it meant something simple, something clear. They didn't really see me anymore. They saw a version of me they could manage, control, shape, rewrite. I set my fork down. I think I'll head out after this, I said casually. Rachel looked up quickly. Already I'm tired, I said, letting just enough truth into my voice to make it believable. And I still want to stop by my friend's place. Daniel didn't argue this time, but I could feel it, the tension building, the plan adjusting in real time. All right, Rachel said finally. We'll walk you out. Of course they would. I smiled faintly. That would be nice. Inside my heart was racing again. But this time it wasn't fear driving me. It was awareness. And for the first time since that note touched my hand, I wasn't just reacting. I was preparing. I didn't rush my meal. That was the first decision I made with intention. If Rachel and Daniel were adjusting their plans, then I needed time. Time to think, time to watch, time to move without raising suspicion. So I took small bites, nodded at the right moments, and let the conversation drift around me like background noise. But I wasn't listening to their words anymore. I was listening for patterns. Rachel kept checking her phone. Not openly, just quick glances, subtle taps under the table. Daniel's posture had changed too. He wasn't leaning back anymore. He was alert now, his attention shifting between me and the entrance of the restaurant. Waiting. For what? For someone. Or for the right moment. Ethan stayed mostly quiet, his shoulders tense, his movements restless. Once he looked like he was about to say something, but Rachel cut in before he could, redirecting the conversation effortlessly. That was when I understood something else. This wasn't new behavior. This was practiced. When the plates were finally cleared, Rachel didn't ask if I was ready to leave. She assumed it. Let's get going, she said brightly, already reaching for her bag, my bag. I stood slowly, steadying myself on the edge of the table. Yes, I said. I think that's a good idea. We walked out together, the four of us moving like a family that still made sense from the outside. But I felt the distance now. Every step, every breath. As we stepped into the parking lot, the late afternoon sun had begun to soften, casting long shadows across the asphalt. Rachel tightened her grip on my purse as she approached the car. I'll get the door for you, Daniel said, moving ahead. No, that's all right, I replied quickly. I'm not coming with you. The words came out calm. Too calm. Rachel froze. Daniel stopped mid-step. Ethan looked between us, confusion flashing across his face. What do you mean? Rachel asked, her voice still pleasant but thinner now. I told you, I said gently. I'm stopping by my friend's place first. Rachel blinked. Once? Twice, Mom, she said, her tone shifting into something firmer. We already talked about this. You're coming with us tonight. No hesitation. No pretense now. Just expectation. I met her gaze. I don't remember agreeing to that. The words landed harder than I intended. Rachel's expression flickered. That's exactly what I mean, she said quickly. You forget things, Mom. That's why we're trying to help. There it was again. The narrative. I felt my pulse quicken, but I kept my voice steady. I remember this clearly, I said. I'm going to see my friend first. Daniel stepped closer now, his presence more imposing. Louise, he said, his voice calm but edged with something colder. It's not safe for you to be going around alone right now. Safe. The word almost made me laugh again. I'll be fine, I replied. Rachel took a step forward, lowering her voice. "This isn't about what you think you can handle," she said. "It's about what's best for you." I held her gaze. "No," I said quietly. "It's about what's best for you." Silence fell. Heavy. Sharp. Ethan's head snapped toward me. Grandma Rachel cut him off. "That's not fair," she said, her voice tightening. "Everything we're doing is for you." "Then let me decide," I said. Daniel exhaled slowly as if losing patience. "This doesn't have to turn into a scene," he said. I glanced around. People were passing by, but no one was paying attention. "Not yet." "It won't," I said, "as long as we respect each other's choices." Rachel's fingers tightened around my purse. "You're not thinking clearly," she said. I took a small step closer to her. "Then give me my bag," I said. For a second, she didn't move. Then she smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Mom," she said softly, "your bag isn't the issue." My stomach dropped. "What is the issue?" I asked. She tilted her head slightly. "You are." The words hung in the air between us, and in that moment something inside me shifted completely. There was no more doubt, no more hesitation, just clarity. "I'm going to need my bag," I repeated. Daniel moved, then subtle but deliberate, positioning himself slightly between me and Rachel. "Let's not do this here," he said quietly. I felt it then. The pressure, the control tightening. Claire's voice echoed in my mind. "Once she's with us, it'll be easier. Not here. Not in public." They needed me somewhere else. Contained. I took a step back. "All right," I said, my tone softening. "You're right. This isn't the place." Rachel relaxed just slightly. "But I still need my bag," I added. She hesitated again. Then slowly she opened her purse and pulled mine out. As she handed it to me, our fingers brushed. Her grip lingered for just a second too long. "Call me when you get there," she said, her voice sweet again. "I will," I replied. I didn't. I turned and walked away. Not fast, not rushed, just steady, controlled. I could feel their eyes on my back the entire time, waiting, watching, measuring. I didn't look back. Not until I reached the edge of the lot, and even then I only glanced briefly. Rachel and Daniel were still standing by the car, talking. Ethan stood a few steps away from them, his posture uncertain. Then, as if sensing my gaze, he looked up. Our eyes met, and in that moment I saw it clearly. Not guilt. Not exactly, but doubt. A crack. Small, but real. I turned away and kept walking. My hands were shaking now, but I didn't stop until I reached the sidewalk. Only then did I open my purse. My phone was inside. Good. My wallet. Still there. Credit cards untouched. But something else caught my eye, a folded piece of paper I didn't recognize. I pulled it out slowly, unfolded it, and felt the air leave my lungs. It was a printout, a medical document, my name at the top. Louise Hayes, Cognitive Assessment Preliminary. My eyes scanned the page, heart pounding. Mild cognitive impairment, increasing forgetfulness, diminished decision-making capacity. None of it was true. None of it. And at the bottom, a signature line. Blank. Waiting. I stared at it, the reality crashing over me all at once. This wasn't just talk. This wasn't just concern twisted into control. This was a plan. Documented. Prepared. Almost ready. And if I had gone home with them tonight... I looked back toward the parking lot again. They were gone. The car had disappeared. They hadn't waited. They hadn't tried to follow. That told me something important. They weren't done. They were regrouping, adjusting, and I had just made myself harder to control. I folded the document carefully and slipped it back into my purse. Then I took a deep breath and pulled out my phone. There was only one person I trusted to handle this now. I scrolled through my contacts until I found his name. William Carter. My finger hovered over the call button for just a second. Then I pressed it. As the phone rang, I looked out at the quiet street in front of me. Everything felt different now. Sharper, clearer, more dangerous, but also more real. William Carter speaking, his voice came through steady and familiar. William. I said, my voice finally breaking just a little. It's Louise Hayes. A pause. Then Louise. What's wrong? I closed my eyes for a moment. Everything I said. I think my family is trying to take my life away from me. Silence. Then his voice firmer now. Where are you? I opened my eyes, and for the first time since that note touched my hand, I knew exactly what I needed to do next. I'm safe for now, I said, but I need your help. I'm safe for now, but I need your help. The words hung between us for a second, and I realized how strange they must have sounded, how unlike me. I had always been the one who solved problems quietly, who handled things without asking for assistance. But this was different. Tell me where you are, William. Carter said, his voice immediately sharpening into focus. I glanced at the street sign on the corner. I'm just outside a restaurant near the campus. Maple and 3rd. Stay there, he said without hesitation. Do not go anywhere with anyone from your family. I'll send a car for you. A car. The decisiveness in his tone steadied something inside me. I can get a ride, I said automatically. No, he replied firmly. I want control of who you're with and where you're going. Give me 10 minutes. Control. The word hit differently coming from him. Not manipulative. Protective. All right, I said. Louise, he added softer. Now, are you alone? Yes. Good, he said. Stay visible. Stay in a public space. And if anyone approaches you, anyone, you call me immediately. Do you understand I do? I'll call you back with details, he said, and then the line went dead. I lowered the phone slowly, my reflection faintly visible in the dark screen. For the first time since this began, I felt something close to stability. Not safety. Not yet. But direction. I turned and walked back toward the restaurant, choosing a small outdoor seating area near the entrance. If I was going to wait, I would do it where people could see me, where nothing could happen quietly. I sat down, folding my hands in my lap to keep them from shaking. Breathe. Think. Plan. The document in my purse felt heavier now, like it carried more than just paper, it carried intent. A future I hadn't agreed to. My mind drifted back to the clinic. The fall. The way Rachel had shown up so quickly that day. Too quickly. I remembered calling her after slipping on the back steps. It had hurt my hip, my pride, but I hadn't thought it was serious. I'm on my way, she had said immediately. And she was, within 15 minutes. At the time, I had been grateful. Now I wondered, had she already been nearby? Had she been waiting? I pressed my lips together, pushing the thought aside before it could spiral too far. Focus on what you know. The clinic. The questions, the pressure, the paperwork, it all lined up too neatly now. A vibration in my hand pulled me back to the present. William was calling again. "I have a driver 5 minutes out," he said. "Black sedan. His name is Marcus. He'll confirm your name before you get in." "Thank you," I said, meaning it more than I could express. "I want you to come straight to my office," he continued. "We'll go over everything there." "I have something you need to see," I said. "A document." "What kind of document?" "A cognitive assessment," I replied, "with my name on it. And a blank signature line." There was a pause. Longer this time. "Louise," he said slowly, "did you sign anything recently? Anything at the clinic or afterward?" "No," I said firmly. "Not like that." "Good," he replied. "Then don't sign anything. Not today. Not tomorrow. Not until I review everything. I won't. And Louise, yes, you did the right thing calling me." Something in my chest tightened at that. "Thank you," I said again. The call ended, and I looked up just in time to see a black sedan pull up along the curb. The driver stepped out, a tall man in his 30s, dressed professionally, but without any unnecessary formality. He approached me cautiously. "Mrs. Hayes?" he asked. "Yes." "Marcus?" he said with a small nod. "Mr. Carter sent me." I studied him for a moment. "Can you tell me where you're taking me?" I asked. "To Mr. Carter's office downtown," he replied. "He asked me to bring you directly to the private entrance." I nodded. "All right." He opened the car door for me, and I slid inside, pulling my purse close to my chest as if it were armor. The ride was quiet. I watched the city pass by through the window, familiar streets that suddenly felt unfamiliar, like I was seeing them from a distance. My phone buzzed once, a message from Rachel. "Where are you?" Another followed quickly. "Mom, please don't do this. We're worried." "And then call me." I stared at the screen. 3 messages, 3 different tones. Concern, pressure, control. I didn't respond. Instead, I turned the phone face down in my lap. Let her wait. Let her wonder. For once. We pulled into an underground garage beneath a tall office building. Marcus guided me through a side entrance and into a quiet elevator that opened directly onto a private floor. William was already waiting when the doors slid open. He looked older than I remembered, but not weaker. His posture was straight, his expression sharp, his eyes immediately scanning my face for signs of distress. "Louise," he said, stepping forward. "William?" He didn't hug me. That wasn't his way, but he placed a hand lightly on my shoulder, grounding me. "You're all right?" he asked. "I think so," I said. "Good," he replied. "Come in." His office was exactly as I remembered, orderly, warm, filled with books and quiet authority. He gestured for me to sit, then closed the door behind us. "Start from the beginning," he said. So I did. The ceremony, the note, Claire, the clinic, the conversation at lunch, the parking lot, the document. I didn't leave anything out. William listened without interrupting, his expression growing more serious with each detail. When I finished, I reached into my purse and handed him the paper. He read it slowly, carefully, then he set it down on the desk. "This," he said, tapping the page lightly, "is the kind of document used to support a petition for guardianship." The word landed like a stone. "Guardianship," I repeated. "Yes," he said. "It's a legal process where someone is declared incapable of managing their own affairs. If approved, another party, usually a family member, is given control over finances, property, and medical decisions. My throat tightened. They could take everything I asked. If successful, yes, he said. I stared at the document, at the blank signature line. At the bottom, I whispered they wanted me to sign that. William nodded, or something very close to it. I looked up at him, fear rising again. Can they still do it? I asked. Not easily, he said. Not if we act quickly. Relief flickered, but it didn't settle. What do we do? I asked. William leaned back slightly, his hands folding together. First, he said, we secure your assets. Immediately. Second, we verify every document tied to your name over the past 6 months. Third, we get an independent medical evaluation from a specialist of our choosing, not theirs. And fourth, he paused, we prepare for the possibility that this becomes a legal case. I swallowed hard. A case against my own daughter. He met my gaze evenly. A case to protect you, he said. The distinction mattered, but it didn't make it easier. I never thought... I began, then stopped. William's voice softened slightly. Your husband did. I looked up sharply. What do you mean? He stood and walked to a locked cabinet, retrieving a thin folder. Robert came to see me about 6 months before he passed, he said. He asked me to put certain protections in place. Quietly. My heart began to pound again. He was worried, William continued. Not about you, but about what might happen to you. He placed the folder on the desk in front of me. There are things in here you need to read, he said. I stared at it, at the life my husband had lived quietly beside me, at the things he had seen that I hadn't, or hadn't wanted to. My hand hovered over the folder. And I realized this wasn't just about what Rachel and Daniel were doing now. This had been building for longer than I ever knew. I opened the folder slowly, and everything changed again. The folder felt heavier than it should have. Not in weight, but in meaning. I sat there for a moment staring at it, my fingers resting lightly on the edge as if it might disappear if I pressed too hard. William didn't rush me. He moved quietly behind his desk, giving me the space to absorb what I was about to face. Take your time, he said. I nodded, though I wasn't sure I had time left to take. Then I opened it. Inside were several documents neatly organized, labeled in William's precise handwriting. On top was a letter sealed, but already opened, my name written across the front in a familiar script. Roberts. My breath caught. I hadn't seen his handwriting in months. Not since I had gone through the last of his things after the funeral, carefully packing away the pieces of a life we had built together. Now, here it was again, waiting for me. My hands trembled slightly as I unfolded the letter. Louise. If you are reading this, it means something has happened that forced William to show you what I couldn't bring myself to say while I was still here. I stopped for a moment, my vision blurring. I blinked hard, forcing myself to continue. I hope I was wrong. God, I hope I was wrong. But if I wasn't, then you need to listen carefully to what I'm about to tell you. A chill ran through me. Rachel and Daniel came to me 2 years ago asking for help. They were in serious financial trouble, debts I didn't fully understand at the time. I gave them money. More than I should have. I told myself it was temporary, that they just needed a way out. My chest tightened. I remembered that time vaguely. Rachel had said they were going through something, but she had brushed it off whenever I asked questions. A few months later, I learned the truth. Daniel had been hiding significant losses. Not just bad investments, reckless decisions, gambling. And Rachel? She knew. She covered for him, Lied to me more than once. I closed my eyes. No, not Rachel. Not my daughter, but the words were there, in Robert's handwriting. I confronted them. It didn't go well. They promised to fix things to get help. I wanted to believe them. I chose to believe them. My fingers tightened around the paper, but something changed after that. The way they spoke about money, about security, about planning ahead, it stopped sounding like responsibility and started sounding like entitlement. I felt a slow sinking realization forming in my chest. I never told you because I didn't want to put you in the middle. I thought I could manage it. I thought I could keep things balanced, but I was wrong. Tears slipped down my cheeks, now quiet and unstoppable. So I made a decision. I worked with William to protect you, to protect everything we built not from strangers, but from the possibility that family might lose their way. My heart ached. He had carried this alone. For me. If they've changed, then this will never matter. But if they haven't, then you need to be strong in a way I never asked you to be before. My vision blurred again. Do not let anyone convince you that love means surrender. Do not let anyone take your voice by telling you it's for your own good. I pressed my lips together, trying to steady myself. You are stronger than you think, Louise, and you deserve to be safe even from the people you love. At the bottom, his name, Robert. I lowered the letter slowly, my hands resting in my lap as the weight of his words settled over me. The room was quiet. Too quiet. Louise Williams' voice came gently from across the desk. I looked up at him, my throat tight. He knew I whispered. William nodded. He was concerned, he said carefully. Not certain, but concerned enough to act. I wiped at my cheeks, though the tears didn't seem to stop. Why didn't he tell me I asked? Why would he carry that alone? Because he loved you. William said simply, and because he hoped it wouldn't come to this. I looked back down at the folder, at the rest of the documents waiting beneath the letter. What else is in here? I asked. William stepped forward and gently turned the next page toward me. Trust agreements, he said. Asset protections, safeguards that Robert requested. I leaned in slightly, reading through the legal language. My house, my savings, investments, all placed within a structure designed to prevent unauthorized transfer, especially under claims of incompetency. There are triggers built in, William explained. If someone attempts to establish guardianship without proper independent evaluation, the trust automatically restricts access to certain assets. I looked up at him. So they can't just take everything. Not without a fight, he said, and not without exposing themselves. A small, fragile sense of relief flickered inside me. But they didn't know about this, I asked. William shook his head. Robert made sure of that. I let out a slow breath. For the first time since this began, I felt like I wasn't completely defenseless. But the relief didn't last long, because something else rose in its place. Grief. Not just for Robert, but for the version of my family I had believed in. I don't understand how it got this far, I said quietly. How did I not see it? William didn't answer right away. When he did, his voice was measured. Because they didn't start here, he said. People rarely do. It builds over time. Small compromises, small justifications. I thought about Rachel as a child, as a teenager, as a young woman. Where had it changed? When had she crossed the line from struggling to planning? And Ethan? I asked suddenly. Where does he fit into all of this? William considered that. From what you've told me, he may not have had full visibility, he said, but he's close enough to be influenced. I nodded slowly. That matched what I had seen. The hesitation, the uncertainty. He looked confused today, I said, like he didn't fully understand what was happening. That could work in your favor, William said. If he's not fully committed to their plan, he may be willing to step back or even help. Help. The idea felt fragile. I don't want to turn this into a war, I said. I want it to stop. William's expression softened slightly. I know, he said, but to stop it, we need to be prepared for resistance. I swallowed hard. What do we do next? He walked back to his desk and picked up a pen, tapping it lightly against the folder. First, he said, we secure your current financial access. Change passwords. Freeze any questionable transfers. Second, we document everything you've experienced, conversations, behaviors, anything that supports a pattern. Third, we arrange an independent medical evaluation to establish your competency clearly. And fourth, he paused again, we control the next interaction. I looked at him. What do you mean? You're going to see them again, he said. Rachel and Daniel won't walk away from this quietly. They'll try to regain control. My stomach tightened. And when they do, he continued, we need to be ready. A slow realization settled over me. This wasn't over, not even close. But this time, I wouldn't be walking into it unprepared. I glanced down at Robert's letter one more time. You are stronger than you think. I closed the folder gently. Then I looked up at William. Tell me what I need to do, I said. And for the first time since this began, I wasn't just reacting anymore. I was ready to fight. William didn't waste time. Within the hour, his office shifted from a quiet place of conversation into something far more purposeful. Phone calls were made. Instructions were given. Documents were pulled from files I hadn't even known existed. And I sat there watching my life being reorganized in real time. First things first, William said, sliding a notepad toward me. We're going to lock down your financial access. I nodded, still absorbing everything. Do you have online banking set up? He asked. Yes, I said. I usually check it once or twice a week. Good. We're going to change every password you have. Banking, email, anything tied to your identity. I hesitated. Right now, I asked. Yes, he said firmly. Right now. I pulled my phone out of my purse again, my fingers still slightly unsteady. William guided me through each step carefully, methodically. New passwords. Two-factor authentication. Security questions Rachel wouldn't be able to guess. What about the transfers? I asked as I finished resetting one account. I've already contacted the bank, William said. We're placing a temporary freeze on any large outgoing transactions until we review them. Relief washed over me, brief but real. They won't be able to move anything tonight, he added. Tonight. The word lingered. That had been their plan, and now it was slipping out of their hands. Now, William continued, we need to document everything. He handed me a pen. I want you to write down everything you remember. Dates, conversations, anything that felt off, even if it didn't seem important at the time. I looked at the blank page. So much had happened. So much I had ignored. I began slowly. The fall. Rachel arriving too quickly. The clinic. The questions, the medication confusion, the missing bank statements, the pressure to stay over, the lunch conversation, the document in my purse. Each memory felt heavier as I wrote it down, like giving it shape made it more real, more undeniable. William read over my notes quietly as I finished nodding occasionally. "This is good," he said. "Very good." "It doesn't feel good," I admitted. "No," he said gently. "But it's necessary." He set the paper aside and leaned back slightly. "The next step is the medical evaluation," he said. "We need an independent specialist, someone with no connection to your daughter or the clinic." I nodded. "Will that be enough?" "It will help establish a clear baseline," he said. "And more importantly, it will counter any claims they try to make." Claims. The word made my stomach tighten again. They really thought I would just go along with it, I said quietly. William didn't respond immediately. Instead, he studied me for a moment. "They may have believed you wouldn't question it," he said finally, "or that they could convince others you weren't capable of questioning it." I looked down at my hands, at the slight tremor that still hadn't fully gone away. For a moment, I admitted I almost believed them. William's voice softened. "That's how these situations work, Louise. They don't start with control. They start with doubt." Doubt. I thought back to Rachel's words at the table. "You forget things. You're tired. It's for your own good. Small seeds, planted carefully, watered over time." "I should have seen it sooner," I said. "No," William said firmly. "You saw it when you were ready to see it. And more importantly, you acted." I let that settle. Because he was right. I had acted. I had walked away. I had made the call. And now, I was here. Still in control. A knock on the door interrupted us. William stood and opened it, speaking quietly with someone in the hallway before returning. "That was my assistant," he said. "We've scheduled your evaluation for tomorrow morning." So soon, I asked. "The sooner we establish your competency independently, the better," he replied. I nodded. "Where will I stay tonight?" I asked. William didn't hesitate. "I've arranged for you to stay at a private bed and breakfast owned by a client of mine. Discreet. Secure. Your name won't be on any public record." Something about that made me pause. "My name won't be listed?" I asked. "Not in a way your family can easily access," he said. "Until we know how far they're willing to go, it's best to limit their ability to track you." I leaned back slightly in my chair. This had gone beyond uncomfortable, beyond upsetting. This was strategic, necessary. And that realization changed something in me. "I understand," I said. William studied me again as if measuring my readiness. "There's one more thing," he said. I looked up. "They will contact you," he continued, repeatedly. "Calls, messages, possibly even showing up in person." I nodded slowly. "Rachel already texted." "And you didn't respond?" "No." "Good," he said. "For now, we control communication. If you do speak to them, it needs to be intentional and documented." I exhaled slowly. "Part of me wants to call her," I admitted. To ask her why. To hear her say it out loud. William's expression softened, but his answer didn't. "That's a conversation you may have later," he said. "But not yet. Right now, your priority is protection, not resolution." Protection, not resolution. I repeated the words silently, because he was right. As much as I wanted answers, I needed safety first. My phone buzzed again. I glanced at it. Rachel. 3 missed calls. A new message. "Mom, please. You're scaring me. Where are you?" I stared at the screen. For a moment, I saw her as she used to be, small, laughing, running into my arms after school. And then I saw her at the restaurant, rewriting me, controlling me. Planning. I turned the phone face down. I'm not ready to answer her, I said. You don't have to be, William replied. Silence settled over the room again, but it felt different this time. Not heavy, not suffocating, focused. What about Ethan? I asked after a moment. William considered that. He may reach out separately, he said. And if he does, that conversation might be worth having carefully. I nodded. He looked unsure today, I said. Like he didn't fully understand what was happening. That uncertainty could be important, William said. It means he hasn't fully committed to their version of events. I held on to that. Because it mattered. Because it meant something hadn't been completely lost. William stood and gathered a few documents, placing them neatly into a folder. I'm going to have Marcus take you to the bed and breakfast now, he said. Get some rest. Tomorrow will be a long day. I stood as well, though part of me didn't feel tired at all, not in the usual way. This wasn't physical exhaustion. This was something deeper. A shift. I don't think I'll sleep much, I admitted. William gave a small, understanding nod. You might not, he said, but you'll still need your strength. I picked up my purse, holding it closer now than I had all day. Not because I was afraid it would be taken, but because I knew what was inside. The document, the evidence, the truth. As we walked toward the door, I paused for just a second. William, I said. He turned. Thank you, I said. Not just for the help, but for believing me, for seeing me clearly, for what he asked, for reminding me that I'm still me, I said. Something softened in his expression. You never stopped being you, Louise, he said. They just hoped you would forget. I nodded, but I wouldn't. Not anymore. As I stepped out into the hallway and toward whatever came next, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. This wasn't over, but neither was I. Sleep didn't come easily that night. The bed and breakfast William had arranged was quiet, tucked away on a tree-lined street that felt far removed from everything that had happened earlier that day. The room itself was warm and carefully decorated, soft lighting, clean linens, a small writing desk by the window. Safe. At least it was supposed to feel that way. But my mind wouldn't settle. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Rachel's face across the table. Calm, controlled, certain. I saw the document in my purse. I heard Claire's voice. Once she's with us, it'll be easier. Easier for what? To convince me? Or to trap me? I sat up, pulling the blanket tighter around my shoulders as I stared into the dim light of the room. My phone lay on the nightstand, silent now, but earlier it hadn't been. Calls, messages, more than I could count. I hadn't answered any of them. Not Rachel, not Daniel, not even Ethan. And that was the part that hurt the most. I picked up the phone slowly, scrolling through the notifications. Rachel, call me. Please. Daniel. We need to talk. This is getting out of hand. Rachel again, Mom. I'm worried about you. And then Ethan, Grandma. Are you okay? I stopped there. My chest tightened. His message was different. No pressure. No control. Just concern. I stared at it for a long moment. Then I set the phone back down. Not yet. I wasn't ready, because once I opened that door, everything would get more complicated, and right now, I needed clarity, not confusion. The next morning came too quickly. I barely remembered falling asleep, but the soft knock at the door pulled me awake just after 7. Mrs. Hayes. A gentle voice called from the hallway. Breakfast is ready whenever you are." "Thank you," I replied, my voice still thick with exhaustion. I sat there for a moment, letting the reality of the day settle over me. The evaluation, the next step, the moment everything would either hold or start to unravel. I got dressed slowly, choosing something simple but deliberate. Not because anyone had told me to, but because I wanted to feel like myself. Not the version Rachel had been describing. Not the one in that document. Me. Downstairs, the dining area was quiet. A few guests sat scattered across small tables, sipping coffee, reading newspapers, living ordinary mornings. I envied them. I ordered something light toast and tea, but barely touched it. My stomach was too tight, my thoughts too loud. At exactly 8:30, Marcus arrived again. "Ready?" he asked. I nodded. As ready as I'll ever be. The drive to the clinic was short, but every minute felt stretched heavy with anticipation. "Do you know what to expect?" Marcus asked gently as we approached the building. "Not exactly," I admitted. "It's just a conversation," he said. "Questions. Memory tests. Nothing you can't handle." I gave a small nod. "I hope you're right." We pulled into a quiet medical complex, clean, professional, neutral. Nothing about it felt like the clinic I had stayed at before. That alone eased something in me. Inside, the receptionist greeted me warmly, checking my name against the appointment list. "Dr. Sullivan will be with you shortly," she said. Dr. Sullivan? Not someone Rachel had arranged. Not someone connected to any of this. Good. I sat in the waiting area, my hands folded in my lap again, my heart steady but alert. This mattered. Not just legally, but personally, because this was where their narrative met reality. After a few minutes, a man in his late 50s stepped into the room, his expression calm and professional. "Mrs. Hayes," he said. "Yes, I'm Dr. Sullivan. Please come with me." His office was simple, no distractions, no unnecessary details. Just a desk, 2 chairs, and a quiet sense of focus. "Before we begin," he said, "I want you to understand something. This evaluation isn't about catching you off guard or testing you under pressure. It's about understanding how you think, how you remember, and how you make decisions." I nodded. "That's exactly what I want," I said. He smiled slightly. "Good. Then let's begin." The questions started simply. Basic information, dates, names. Then gradually they became more complex. Patterns, sequences, situational reasoning. At one point he asked, "If you noticed discrepancies in your financial records, what would you do?" I didn't hesitate. I would document everything, secure my accounts, and consult someone I trust, preferably a legal professional, I said. He made a note. Another question. "If a family member insisted you were forgetting things you clearly remembered, how would you respond?" I paused for just a second, then answered. "I would consider the possibility that they are mistaken," I said, "but I would also examine whether their behavior has a pattern, whether they are trying to influence how others perceive me." Another note. The evaluation lasted nearly an hour. By the end, I felt something I hadn't felt since this began. Grounded, clear, certain. Dr. Sullivan closed his folder and looked at me directly. "Mrs. Hayes," he said, "there is no indication of cognitive impairment." The words settled into me like a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. "You are fully capable of managing your own affairs," he continued. "Your memory, reasoning, and judgment are all well within normal, and in some areas above average." I felt my shoulders drop, the tension easing just slightly. "Thank you," I said quietly. "I'll prepare a formal report," he added. Your attorney should have it by this afternoon. Thank you, I repeated. When I stepped back outside, the air felt different, lighter, not because everything was resolved, but because something important had been confirmed. The truth. Marcus opened the car door for me again. Well, he asked. I allowed myself the smallest smile. I'm exactly who I thought I was, I said. He nodded as if he had expected nothing less. We drove back toward William's office, the city moving around us in quiet motion. My phone buzzed again. This time I looked. Ethan. Another message. Grandma, please talk to me. I don't understand what's going on. I stared at the words, and for the first time since all of this began, I felt something other than fear. I felt choice. I turned the phone over in my hand, considering. William's voice echoed in my mind. If he reaches out, that conversation might be worth having carefully. Carefully. I took a slow breath. Then I unlocked the screen and typed, I'm safe. We'll talk soon. I didn't say more. Not yet. But it was a beginning. As I hit send, I looked out the window again. The world hadn't changed, but I had. And whatever came next, I would meet it on my terms. By the time I returned to William's office, something inside me had settled into place. Not comfort, not peace, but certainty. The kind that doesn't shake easily. William was already standing when I walked in, as if he had been waiting for me specifically. Well, he asked. I met his eyes and allowed myself a small, steady smile. There's nothing wrong with me, I said. Not the way they've been saying. A flicker of satisfaction crossed his face. I didn't think there was. He gestured toward the chair across from his desk. Sit. I've been working on something while you were gone. I sat, placing my purse carefully beside me. The report will be sent over this afternoon, I added. Dr. Sullivan was very clear, Good William said. That gives us a strong foundation. He slid a thin file toward me, different from the one containing Robert's letter. This, he said, tapping the cover, is what I was able to confirm this morning. I leaned forward slightly, my attention sharpening. What did you find? William opened the file, revealing a series of printed documents, bank statements, and notes. Your daughter has recently accessed several online forms related to guardianship petitions he began. My stomach tightened. She didn't file anything yet, I asked. No, he said. Not officially, but she's been preparing. I nodded slowly. That fits, I said. There's more, he continued. We found evidence that someone attempted to modify access permissions on one of your retirement accounts. My breath caught. Attempted. Yes, he said. The request was flagged and paused due to unusual activity. Relief flickered, but it was quickly replaced by something colder. They tried to get into my accounts, I said. They tried, he corrected. They didn't succeed. But it shows intent. Intent! The word echoed again. Everything was pointing in one direction now. This wasn't just an idea, I said quietly. This was already in motion. William nodded. And it gets more specific, he added. He turned another page toward me. Your daughter scheduled a follow-up evaluation appointment for you, he said, with a physician you've never seen. I stared at the document. My name. A date. Acquaint. All arranged without my knowledge. She was trying to build a medical case, I said. Exactly, William replied. A second opinion, one she could influence. I felt a slow wave of anger rise. Not explosive, not uncontrollable, but steady, focused. She really thought I wouldn't notice, I said. She thought she could manage what you noticed? William corrected. That stung, because it was true. For a while, she had. I looked down at the documents again, my mind moving quickly now, connecting pieces. She kept talking about me being tired, I said. About forgetting things, even at lunch yesterday. William nodded. That's consistent with a pattern of narrative reinforcement. I looked up. Narrative, creating a consistent story about your condition, he explained. One that can be repeated to doctors, lawyers, even other family members until it becomes accepted. Accepted. Even if it wasn't true. I exhaled slowly. And Ethan? I asked. Would he have been told that same story? Most likely, William said, and if he wasn't questioning it, he may have believed it. I thought back to his expression at the table, the hesitation, the confusion. He didn't look convinced, I said. Just uncertain. That uncertainty could become important, William said again. I nodded, because now more than ever I believed that. What else did you find? I asked. William hesitated for just a moment before answering. There was a reference to a storage unit, he said. My head lifted. A storage unit. Yes, he said. It came up in a conversation one of my contacts overheard at the clinic. Your daughter mentioned it more than once. A faint memory stirred. Claire. She said something like that, I murmured. That Rachel talked about finding something Robert hid. William's expression sharpened. That aligns with what I was told, he said. My heart began to beat faster again. What would Robert have hidden? I asked. William leaned back slightly, considering. I don't know for certain, he said. But given what we found in the trust documents, it's possible he kept additional records. Things he didn't want easily accessible. I thought about the letter, about the secrets he had already kept. He didn't trust them, I said quietly. No, William replied. He didn't. Silence settled between us again, but it wasn't empty. It was building. What if that's what they're really after? I said slowly. Not just my house. Not just my accounts. William nodded. It's possible. If they believe there's something of value, financial or otherwise, they may be trying to secure everything at once. Everything. Control, assets, authority, and whatever Robert had left behind. We need to find it, I said. William studied me for a moment. That may be the next step, he agreed, but we have to be careful. If they've been searching for it, they may already have access to whatever location it's stored in. I felt a chill. Then we need to move before they do, I said. He didn't argue. Instead, he reached for another document and slid it across the desk. This is a list of storage units registered under business names connected to your husband, he said. I stared at it. Several addresses, dates, account numbers. You think one of these might be it? I asked. I think one of these is worth checking, he replied. I leaned back in my chair, my mind racing. Yesterday morning, I had been sitting in an auditorium watching my grandson graduate. By afternoon, I was uncovering a plan to take control of my life, and now I was chasing a secret my husband had hidden before he died. It felt surreal, but it also felt right, like the pieces were finally aligning. What about Rachel? I asked after a moment. What happens when she realizes I'm not coming back? William's expression remained steady. She already has, he said. As if on cue, my phone buzzed again. I looked down. Rachel. Another message. Mom, this is getting serious. You need to come home. A second one followed immediately. We're trying to help you. Why are you doing this? I stared at the screen. then slowly locked it. "I think she knows," I said. William nodded. "And she'll escalate." I looked up at him. "Then we need to be ready," I said. He gave a small approving nod. "We will be," he said. I glanced down at the list of storage units again, at the possibility of answers waiting somewhere behind a locked door, and for the first time since all of this began, I felt something shift. Not just fear, not just defense, but momentum. Because this wasn't just about stopping them anymore. It was about uncovering the truth, and whatever Robert had hidden, it might be the key to everything. We didn't wait. That was William's decision, and this time I didn't question it. "If there's something in one of those units," he said, gathering his keys and the file, "we need to see it before anyone else does." "Today?" I asked. "Now," he replied. There was a steadiness in his voice that cut through everything else: fear, doubt, hesitation. So I stood, and we went. Marcus drove us across town, the list of storage addresses resting in my lap like a map to something buried not just physically, but emotionally. Each line on that paper represented a possibility, a piece of Robert's silence, a part of his worry that had never reached me while he was alive. "Which one first?" Marcus asked. William pointed to the second address. "This one. It's the oldest account still active. If Robert kept anything important, it would likely be there." I nodded, though my hands tightened slightly around the paper. The facility was quiet when we arrived. Rows of identical metal doors, clean concrete paths, security cameras mounted high in each corner. Nothing about it stood out, and yet everything about it felt significant. William checked in at the office, confirming access through documentation he already had prepared. Within minutes, we were walking down a narrow corridor, the air cool and still. Unit 214. We stopped in front of it. My heart began to pound again. "This is it," William said. I stared at the lock, at the small, ordinary door that suddenly felt like it held years of unspoken truth behind it. "Do you want me to open it?" he asked gently. I shook my head. "No," I said. "I'll do it. Because this, whatever it was, belonged to me too." He handed me the key. My fingers trembled slightly as I inserted it into the lock. For a second it didn't turn, and panic flickered in my chest. But then it clicked. The sound echoed louder than it should have. I pulled the door open slowly. Inside, the space was dim but organized. Boxes, several of them, stacked neatly along the back wall. Not random, not forgotten. Intentional. I stepped inside. The air smelled faintly of paper and dust, old, but not neglected. William stayed just behind me, giving me space. "Take your time," he said. I moved toward the nearest box, kneeling carefully before opening it. Inside were folders, ledgers, old business documents. I flipped through them slowly, recognizing pieces of Robert's past I had only ever heard about in fragments. Partnerships, investments, names I didn't recognize. But then, one name stood out. Bennett. My breath caught. I turned another page. More references, transactions, correspondence. "William," I said quietly, "there's a name here. Bennett." He stepped closer, looking over my shoulder. "Samuel Bennett," he said. "That's a name Robert mentioned once years ago. A former business associate." Something stirred in my memory. Not clear, but familiar. "Claire," I whispered. William looked at me. "The woman who warned you?" "Yes," I said. "Her last name is Bennett." A silence fell between us. Not confusion, recognition. "That's not a coincidence," William said. I nodded slowly. No, it wasn't. I set the papers aside and moved to the next box. This one was different, smaller, more personal. Inside were cassette tapes, old labeled carefully in Robert's handwriting. Dates, short descriptions. Meetings, I murmured. William's expression sharpened. "Recorded." "It looks like it," I said. My pulse quickened. Robert had documented something he hadn't told me about. I reached for one of the tapes, turning it over in my hands, and then I saw it. At the bottom of the box, a metal case, locked. My breath caught again. "William," I said. He followed my gaze. "That's likely what they were looking for," he said quietly. I swallowed hard. The room felt smaller now, heavier. I reached out slowly, my fingers brushing the cool surface of the case. "What's inside?" I asked. "We're about to find out," he said. He pulled a small tool from his pocket, not forcing the lock, but carefully examining it. "Give me a moment," he said. I stepped back slightly, my heart racing. This was it. Whatever Robert had hidden, whatever Rachel and Daniel believed would change everything. It was right here. The lock clicked open, soft, final. William lifted the lid slowly. Inside, more documents, but these were different. Not business records, not ledgers, personal letters, and one envelope on top newer than the rest, my name on it. Again. Louise. My breath hitched. Another letter. From Robert. But this one felt different. I picked it up carefully, my hands trembling again, not from fear this time, but from something deeper. Anticipation. Truth. I opened it. Inside the paper was crisp, the handwriting unmistakable. "Louise, if you've reached this, then things have gone further than I ever hoped they would." My chest tightened. There are things in this box that explain what happened between me and Samuel Bennett. Things I was too ashamed to fully share while I was alive. I glanced up at William briefly, then back to the letter. Samuel didn't walk away from our business. I pushed him out. I believed I was protecting us, but in doing so, I ignored what was really happening around me. A slow, uneasy feeling began to build. There were irregularities, money that didn't add up, decisions being made without full transparency. I suspected Daniel's father was involved, but I couldn't prove it at the time. Daniel's father. The connection hit me immediately. Samuel tried to expose it. I didn't listen, and when things escalated, I chose the easier path distance. I regret that every day. I felt a wave of emotion rise, grief, understanding, something like guilt, even though it wasn't mine. Years later, I learned Samuel was right, and by then the damage was done. The patterns didn't disappear, they just changed hands. My fingers tightened around the paper. Changed hands. Daniel. If Rachel and Daniel are involved in something similar now, then you need to understand this. It's not new. It's learned behavior, and it won't stop unless it's confronted. I closed my eyes for a moment, because that explained everything. The confidence, the planning, the lack of hesitation. This wasn't their first time navigating something like this. It was just the first time I had seen it. The recordings in this box may help you. They contain conversations, evidence, things I couldn't act on then, but that may matter now. I opened my eyes again. The tapes. The documents. Proof. And Louise. I swallowed hard, bracing myself. If Claire Bennett finds you before you find this, listen to her. She has every reason not to trust our family, but she chose to reach out anyway. That means something. My breath caught. Claire. Not a coincidence. Not random. Connected. Everything was connected. I lowered the letter slowly, my mind racing. William was already looking through the documents inside the case, his expression tightening with each page. This, he said quietly. This is significant. I looked at him. How much I asked. He met my gaze, enough to change everything he said. The words echoed in the small storage unit, and for the first time since this began, I understood something clearly. This wasn't just about my life anymore. It was about a pattern, a history, a truth that had been buried for years. And now, it was finally coming to the surface. We brought everything back to William's office. Not just the metal case, but the tapes, the ledgers, the letters. Piece by piece, what had been hidden for years was now spread across a long conference table under bright, unforgiving light. It didn't look dramatic. Just paper, plastic cases, ink. But I could feel the weight of it, of what it meant, of what it could do. William handled everything with careful precision. He labeled items, photographed them, and had his assistant begin cataloging the contents. One of the cassette tapes was transferred into a digital recorder, the soft whirring sound filling the room as it began to play. At first there was only static, then voices, low, distant, and then clearer. A man's voice, Robert's, calm, controlled. This doesn't add up, Samuel. These numbers. Another voice cut in, sharper, agitated. You're not looking at the right place, Robert. It's not the books you need to worry about. It's who's moving the money. I felt my breath catch. William glanced at me but didn't stop the recording. The second voice continued. Samuel Bennett, I assumed. They're hiding it in transfers. Layered. It won't show unless you track it over time. Robert's voice again, quieter now. You're accusing Daniel's father. I'm telling you what I found, Samuel replied. And if you ignore it, it's going to come back. Not just on him, on all of us. The tape crackled slightly, then faded. William paused it. Silence settled in the room. This is exactly the kind of evidence we needed, he said. I nodded slowly, though my mind was still processing. They knew, I said. Years ago, they knew something like this was happening. And it wasn't resolved, William added. It was buried. I looked down at the table, at the layers of truth that had been pushed aside, and now, resurfacing. What about Daniel, I asked. Do you think he knew all of this? William considered that. He may not have known the details, he said, but if this pattern was part of his family environment, he would have learned the methods, the mindset, control, manipulation, gradual escalation. It all fit. And Rachel? I said quietly. She made a choice, William replied. Whether it started from pressure, fear, or loyalty, it doesn't change the fact that she participated. The words hurt, even now, even after everything. Because she wasn't just someone involved in this. She was my daughter. A sudden knock on the door interrupted the moment. William's assistant stepped in, her expression composed but urgent. Mr. Carter, you should see this. He stood immediately. What is it? She handed him a tablet. It's from one of our contacts, she said, at a real estate office. William's expression tightened as he read. What I asked. He looked up at me. They've already spoken to a realtor, he said. Your daughter and son-in-law. About listing your house. My chest tightened. So soon, I whispered. They were planning ahead, he said. They expected you to be with them by now. The realization hit hard. If I had gone home with them, If I had signed anything, my house could have been gone before I even understood what was happening. I felt a wave of anger rise stronger, this time clearer. They didn't even wait, I said. No, William replied. They assumed control was already theirs. I stood slowly, my hands resting on the edge of the table. That ends now, I said. William met my gaze. Yes, he said. It does. He turned back to the assistant. I want that realtor contacted immediately. Inform them that any listing tied to Louise Hayes is unauthorized and under legal review. Yes, sir, she said, already moving to act. I exhaled slowly. One step, one line drawn. But there would be more. William turned back to me. They won't stop, he said. Not after this. I know, I replied. And that means, he continued, we need to move to the next phase. I tilted my head slightly, which is confrontation, he said. The words settled heavily between us. Not emotional, not reactive, strategic. We invite them to talk, he explained. On our terms, in a controlled environment. I thought about that, about sitting across from Rachel again, from Daniel, hearing their voices, their explanations, their lies. My chest tightened, but I didn't look away. They'll come, I said. They will, William agreed. Because they still believe they can fix this, redirect it, regain control. A pause, and we let them think that, he added. I understood. We let them talk, I said slowly. Yes. And we listen. Yes. And we wait for them to reveal themselves. William nodded. Exactly. A strange calm settled over me, not because this would be easy, but because it would be clear. No more guessing. No more doubt. Just truth. What about Ethan, I asked. William considered that. If he's present, his reactions may tell us a great deal, he said, but we don't push him, not yet. I nodded, because I didn't want to lose him too, not if there was still something worth saving. My phone buzzed again. I didn't need to look. I already knew, but I did anyway. Rachel. Another message. This is your last chance to come home and talk like a family. I stared at the words. Last chance. The shift in tone was clear now. No more pretending. No more gentle concern. Control. Slipping into urgency. I looked up at William. They're feeling the pressure, I said. Yes, he replied. Which means they're more likely to make mistakes. I nodded slowly. Then I picked up my phone. And for the first time since all of this began, I replied, We'll talk. Tomorrow. I paused, then added, with my attorney present. I hit send. The message felt like a line drawn in stone. There was no going back now. William watched me carefully. Well done, he said. I set the phone down, my hands steady. How do you feel? He asked. I thought about it, about everything that had happened in less than 48 hours. The note, the truth, the betrayal, the evidence, and what was coming next. I began then stopped, because the word mattered. Not afraid, not broken, not confused. I feel ready, I said. And for the first time, I meant it. The next day arrived with a strange kind of stillness, not peace, but anticipation. The kind that sits just beneath the surface, quiet but heavy, waiting for something to break it. William had arranged everything. The meeting would take place in a private conference room at his office, neutral ground controlled, documented. His assistant had already set up discreet recording equipment, fully compliant with legal requirements. Every word spoken would be preserved. No confusion, no reinterpretation later, just truth. I sat at the long table, my hands resting calmly in front of me. The folder with Robert's letter and the storage unit evidence sat beside William. My phone lay face down, silent. For now. "They'll be here in 5 minutes," William said, checking his watch. I nodded. I had imagined this moment in different ways. Anger, tears, confrontation. But what I felt instead was clarity. The door opened. Rachel walked in first. She looked composed, carefully so. Her hair was perfect, her posture straight, her expression controlled. But her eyes gave her away. Tension. Behind her, Daniel followed, less polished, more rigid, his jaw tight, his movement sharper. Ethan came last. And the moment I saw him, my heart shifted. He looked exhausted. Not physically, emotionally. His eyes found mine immediately and didn't look away. "Mom," Rachel said, her voice soft, measured. "We need to talk." "We are talking," I replied calmly. Her gaze flicked to William, then back to me. With a lawyer, she asked, a hint of irritation slipping through. "Yes," I said. "With a lawyer." Daniel stepped forward slightly. "This is unnecessary," he said. "We're family. We can handle this ourselves." "No," I replied, meeting his gaze evenly. "We can't." Silence settled in the room. Rachel exhaled slowly as if recalibrating. "Okay," she said. "Then let's just clear things up." She sat down across from me, Daniel beside her. Ethan hesitated for a moment, then took a seat slightly apart from both of them. That mattered. I noticed. William remained standing for a moment before sitting beside me, his presence steady and unobtrusive. Rachel folded her hands on the table. "We've been worried about you," she began. "Your behavior yesterday, leaving like that, not answering calls, it wasn't like you." I didn't respond immediately. I let the words settle. Then I spoke. "What exactly about my behavior concerns you?" I asked. She blinked. "Just briefly." "You left without telling us where you were going," she said. "You refused to come home with us." "That's not normal." I tilted my head slightly. "It's not normal to make my own decisions," I asked. "That's not what I meant," she said quickly. "But given everything that's been happening, your fall, the confusion, the memory issues." "There are no memory issues," I said, cutting in calmly. Rachel's expression tightened. "Mom, I had a full evaluation this morning," I continued. "Independent. Not arranged by you." That stopped her. Daniel shifted beside her, and he asked. "And there is no cognitive impairment," I said. "None." Silence. Real silence this time. Rachel's composure faltered just slightly. "That doesn't change the fact that it changes everything I said." She stared at me, and for the first time, she didn't have an immediate response. Daniel leaned forward, his tone sharper now. "Look, this is getting out of control," he said. "We were trying to help you, that's all." "By preparing guardianship paperwork?" I asked. His expression froze. Rachel's head snapped toward him. "By scheduling medical evaluations without my knowledge," I continued. "By attempting to access my financial accounts." Rachel's face drained of color. "Mom, I don't know what you think you saw. I didn't see it," I said. "I have it." I reached into the folder and slid the printed document across the table. The cognitive assessment. The one with the blank signature line. Rachel stared at it, then at me. "That's not..." "Finish the sentence," I said quietly. She didn't. Because she couldn't. Daniel exhaled sharply. This doesn't prove anything, he said. It's just a draft. A draft of what William asked calmly. Daniel turned toward him. Irritation clear now. Who are you two? I'm her attorney, William said, his tone even. And I suggest you answer the question. Daniel's jaw tightened. Rachel placed a hand on his arm. Let me handle this, she said softly. Then she looked back at me. Mom, she said, her voice shifting softer, emotional, almost pleading. We were trying to protect you. The words hung there. Familiar. Rehearsed. I felt something in me go very still. Protect me from what I asked. She hesitated. And in that hesitation, everything cracked. From yourself, Daniel said suddenly. Rachel turned to him sharply. Daniel! But it was too late. The truth had slipped out. I leaned back slightly, my gaze steady. From myself, I repeated. Yes, he said, his voice rising. You've been making mistakes. Financial decisions, health decisions. You're not as sharp as you used to be. That's not true, Ethan said suddenly. All of us turned toward him. His voice wasn't loud, but it was firm. Rachel frowned. Ethan? No, he said. It's not true. He looked at me, then back at them. You told me she was forgetting things he said, that she was getting confused. But she's not. A silence fell. Different this time. Heavier. More fragile. Daniel scoffed. You don't know what you're talking about. I know what I've seen, Ethan replied. Rachel's composure began to crack. Ethan, we've talked about this. Yeah, he said. We talked. You told me what to think. The words hit harder than anything else so far. Rachel stared at him. Why are you doing this? She asked, her voice breaking slightly. Ethan swallowed hard. Because something's not right, he said. And I can't pretend it is anymore. My chest tightened. Not with fear, with something else. Hope. Small. Fragile. But real. Daniel stood abruptly. This is ridiculous, he said. We're being attacked for trying to help. No, I said calmly. You're being exposed for trying to control. He turned toward me, anger flashing openly now. You think you've won something here, he said. You have no idea what you're dealing with. I held his gaze. I think I do, I said. William leaned forward slightly. And if you continue down this path, he added, you may find yourself dealing with consequences you're not prepared for. Daniel's expression darkened. Rachel looked between us, between me, Ethan, and William, and for the first time, she looked unsure, not calculating, not controlling, just unsure. What do you want? She asked quietly. The question settled in the room, simple, direct, and finally, honest. I looked at her, at my daughter, at everything that had led us here. I want my life back, I said. Silence. Then I want you to stop, I continued. Stop the paperwork. Stop the interference. Stop trying to turn me into someone I'm not. Rachel's eyes filled with tears. I was trying to fix things, she whispered. At my expense, I said. She didn't deny it. Because she couldn't. The room fell quiet again. But this time, it felt like something had shifted. Not resolved, not healed, but exposed. And once something is exposed, it can't be hidden again. The silence that followed felt different from all the others. Not tense, not uncertain, but final. Rachel sat across from me, her hands trembling slightly now, the carefully controlled version of herself beginning to unravel. Daniel stood off to the side, rigid jaw tight, his anger no longer masked behind politeness. Ethan remained seated still, but no longer unsure. And I felt steady, truly steady. William leaned forward just slightly, his voice calm but firm. "This is the point where we clarify what happens next," he said. Rachel looked at him, then at me. "What happens next?" she echoed. "Yes," William said. "Because from a legal standpoint, there are serious concerns here." Daniel let out a sharp breath. "Legal? You're turning this into a legal issue." "It already is one," William replied evenly. "Unauthorized attempts to access financial accounts, preparation of guardianship documents without consent, potential misrepresentation of medical conditions." Rachel's face paled. "That's not," she began. "It is," William said, cutting in not harshly but with certainty. "And the evidence supports it." I watched her as those words settled in. For the first time, she looked afraid. "Mom," she said, turning back to me, her voice softer now, stripped of strategy, stripped of control. "I didn't mean for it to go this far." I held her gaze. "But it did," I said. Her eyes filled with tears again, but this time they weren't controlled. They weren't part of a narrative. They were real. "We were in trouble," she said quietly. "Financially. Worse than you knew." I didn't respond. I let her speak. Because now, she was telling the truth. "At first it was just temporary," she continued. "We thought we could fix it. Pay things off. Get back on track." Daniel shifted beside her but didn't interrupt. "But it kept getting worse," she said. "And when Dad helped us, it wasn't enough." I felt Robert's absence in that moment more than ever. He knew, I said quietly. Rachel looked up, startled. "What?" "He knew about the debts," I said. "About Daniel's losses. He wrote about it." Her expression changed. Not denial. Recognition. "You read it," she said. "Yes." She looked down at the table, her shoulders sinking. "I didn't think he told you," she whispered. "He didn't," I said. "He protected me. From this." A long silence followed. Rachel's voice, when she spoke again, was barely above a whisper. "I didn't want it to turn into this," she said. "But you let it," I replied. Daniel stepped forward, then his patience clearly gone. "This is pointless," he said. "We're not criminals. We were trying to secure her future and ours." "By taking control of her life?" William asked. "By making sure everything didn't fall apart," Daniel snapped. Ethan stood up suddenly. "Nothing was falling apart," he said. "Grandma was fine." Daniel turned on him. "You don't understand." "No," Ethan said. "I do. You told me she was getting worse, that she needed help, that she might hurt herself financially." He shook his head. "But she's not," he said. "She's exactly the same." Rachel closed her eyes for a moment as if the weight of it all was finally too much. "We thought we could handle it," she said. "We thought if we just got control of things, we could fix everything. Control isn't the same as help," I said. She nodded slowly. "I see that now." The admission hung in the air. Simple, but powerful. Daniel let out a bitter laugh. "So that's it," he said. "We just walk away. After everything." "Yes," I said. He stared at me.
No,
he said.
That's not how this works. It is now,
William replied calmly. Daniel turned toward him, anger rising again.
You think you can just threaten us into backing off? I don't need to threaten you,
William said.
The situation speaks for itself.
He gestured toward the documents on the table.
Any further attempt to pursue guardianship without valid medical grounds will be contested, he continued. Any unauthorized financial activity will be investigated, and if necessary, we will pursue legal action.
Daniel's expression hardened. Rachel looked between us, panic creeping back into her eyes.
Mom,
she said, her voice breaking, please, don't do this. I looked at her, at the child I had raised, at the woman she had become. I'm not doing this, I said quietly. I'm stopping it. Tears slipped down her cheeks.
I was scared, she whispered. I know I said, but you didn't come to me.
I continued. You didn't ask for help. You made a plan to take it. She didn't argue, because she couldn't. Ethan stepped closer to the table, his voice softer now.
Grandma, I didn't know he said. Not all of it. I swear.
I met his eyes,
and I believed him. I know I said.
He swallowed hard.
I should have asked more questions.
Yes, I said gently.
You should have.
A small silence passed between us. Then I looked back at Rachel. This doesn't end with everything going back to normal, I said. She nodded slowly, her expression hollow.
I understand. There will be consequences,
William added. Rachel closed her eyes briefly. I know. Daniel didn't respond. He just stood there, rigid, silent, his anger now contained but not gone.
This meeting is over,
William said. No one argued. Rachel stood slowly, her movements heavier now, as if something inside her had shifted. She looked at me one last time.
I never wanted to lose you,
she said. I held her gaze.
You didn't lose me, I replied. You pushed me away.
The words landed. Hard. Final. She nodded once, tears still falling. Then she turned and walked out. Daniel followed without a word. Ethan hesitated. He looked at me again.
I'll call you,
he said quietly. I nodded.
I'll answer,
I said. He gave a small, relieved nod. Then he left. The door closed. And just like that, it was over. Or at least, the hardest part was, I sat there for a moment, the room suddenly quiet, the tension gone, but the weight of everything still present. William gathered the documents calmly.
You handled that well,
he said. I let out a slow breath.
I didn't know if I could,
I admitted.
You did,
he said. I looked down at my hands. They weren't shaking anymore, not even a little. What happens now? I asked. Now he said we move forward. I nodded slowly. Forward, not back. Not to what things used to be, but to something new, something honest, something real. And for the first time since all of this began, I felt ready for that. The house felt different when I walked back in. Not because anything had changed physically, the same furniture, the same framed photographs, the same quiet hum of familiarity, but because I had. For the first time in years, I noticed the silence not as loneliness, but as space. Space that belonged to me. I set my purse down on the kitchen counter and stood there for a moment, just breathing. The late afternoon light filtered through the windows, soft and steady, touching everything it always had. But now I saw it clearly. Nothing here had ever been out of my control. I had just allowed others to make me question it. I walked slowly through the house, letting my fingers brush against familiar surfaces, the edge of the dining table, the back of the couch, the bookshelf where Robert used to leave notes tucked between pages. Memories were everywhere, but they didn't feel heavy anymore. They felt grounding. I stopped in the living room and sat down in my chair, the one I had always called mine, the one Rachel had once joked I would never give up. She had been right about that. I wasn't giving it up, not to her, not to anyone. A few days had passed since the meeting. Legal steps had already been taken. William had ensured my accounts were fully secured. Any attempts to access or alter them would now trigger immediate alerts. The real estate office had formally withdrawn any interest in listing my house, noting the legal dispute. Rachel and Daniel had gone quiet. Not completely, but enough. Messages had come. Apologies, explanations, attempts to soften what had happened. I hadn't responded. Not yet, because I wasn't ready to decide what role they would have in my life moving forward. And for the first time, that decision felt like mine. A knock at the door pulled me from my thoughts. I stood slowly, my body calm, my mind steady. When I opened it, Ethan stood there. He looked different. Still tired, but clearer somehow. Like something inside him had shifted too. "Hi," he said. "Hi," I replied. For a moment we just stood there. Then I stepped aside. "Come in." He walked in quietly, glancing around the house as if seeing it in a new way. "It feels the same," he said. "It is," I replied. "I am not." He nodded. "I know." We sat in the living room, a small distance between us, not out of discomfort, but out of respect. "I'm sorry," he said after a moment. For what I asked gently. For not questioning things sooner, he said. For believing what they told me without really looking. I studied him. His words were simple, but they were honest. "That matters," I said. He looked up. "It does?" "Yes," I said. "Because it means you're paying attention now." He exhaled slowly, some of the tension leaving his shoulders. "I didn't know about the money," he said, "or the paperwork. I swear." "I believe you," I said. He nodded, relief flickering across his face. "But you knew something wasn't right," I added. He hesitated, then nodded again. "I just didn't want to see it," he admitted. "That's human," I said. We sat in silence for a moment. Comfortable this time. Not heavy. "What about Mom?" he asked carefully. I didn't answer right away, because the truth was, I didn't know yet. "She made choices," I said finally, "and those choices have consequences." He nodded. "I don't know what happens next," I continued, "but I do know this: it won't go back to the way it was." "I understand," he said, and I believed him, because he wasn't asking me to pretend. He wasn't asking me to forgive before I was ready. He was just listening. And that mattered more than anything else. "I'd like to try to fix things," he said after a moment. "With you?" I smiled slightly. "That's a good place to start," I said. We talked for a while after that. Not about everything, not about the details of what had happened, but about small things. Real things. His plans after graduation, the job he was considering, the life he wanted to build. And for the first time in days, it felt normal, not forced, not fragile, just real. When he left, he paused at the door. "I'm proud of you," he said. The words caught me off guard. Why, I asked. Because you didn't let them change who you are, he said. I felt something warm settle in my chest. Neither should you, I replied. He nodded. Then he left. The house was quiet again, but it didn't feel empty. It felt full of possibility, full of choice. That evening I sat at my desk and opened a new folder. Not one from William, not one from Robert, one of my own. I labeled it simply The Next Chapter. Inside I began to write. Plans, changes, things I wanted to do not because I had to, but because I could. I contacted William the next morning about setting up a small foundation in Robert's name, something meaningful, something lasting. We decided on a scholarship fund for students entering fields that mattered to us. Education, care, support. Something that would give back. Something that couldn't be taken. Claire and I spoke too, not just about what had happened, but about what came next. There was history there, pain, but also a chance to rebuild something that had been broken long before I even knew it existed. And for the first time, family didn't feel like obligation. It felt like choice. Weeks passed, then months. Things settled. Not perfectly, but honestly, Rachel wrote to me more than once. I read every letter. I didn't answer all of them, but I didn't throw them away either. Because healing isn't immediate. It's intentional, and it takes time. One evening I stood on the porch watching the sky shift into shades of gold and blue. The same sky I had seen 1,000 times before, but it felt different now, clearer, like I was seeing it without interference, without doubt. I thought about that moment at the graduation, the note, the warning, the choice. If I had ignored it, everything would have been different. But I didn't. I listened, and in doing so, I found my way back to myself. Not the version others tried to define, but the one that had always been there, waiting. And now, finally free. There's something no one tells you about growing older. It's not just your body that changes, it's the way people start to see you. Sometimes they speak a little slower around you. Sometimes they make decisions for your own good. And sometimes they quietly begin to question whether you're still capable of living your own life. But here's the truth I learned. Losing confidence in yourself doesn't happen all at once. It happens in small moments when you stop questioning, when you stop speaking up, when you let others define what's best for you. And the most dangerous part? It often comes from people you love. This story isn't just about betrayal. It's about boundaries. It's about remembering that love does not give anyone the right to control you. Not your children, not your family, not anyone. No matter your age, no matter your situation, you are still allowed to make your own decisions. You are still allowed to say no. You are still allowed to protect your life, your home, your voice, your dignity. And sometimes, the strongest thing you can do is walk away from people who believe they know what's best for you better than you do. If this story touched you, I'd love to hear from you. Where are you watching from and what time is it there right now? Have you ever felt like someone was slowly taking control of your life without you realizing it? What would you have done if you were in Louise's position? Don't forget to like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe if you believe in stories about strength, truth, and reclaiming your life. Because sometimes, the most powerful comeback is simply becoming yourself again.